بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله العظيم من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد أيها الأحباب اتقوا الله كما أمر فإنه سبحانه قال يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون وقال يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. All you believe fear Allah as He should be feared and die not except in the state of Islam. My dear respected brothers and sisters, without doubt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us a technique which the humans have forever been making use of this technique. And that technique is how to bring the bigger pictures to people, to make them understand through telling stories and examples. Because by telling stories and by making examples, a person can better picturize things. And no doubt, the stories in the Quran and the examples that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives are the best of stories. As Allah said, أحسن القصص. And He said, وَتِلْكَ الْأَمْثَالُ نَضْرِبُهَا لِلنَّاسِ. These are the best stories and these are the examples that we give to the people. So these are the best because Allah has chosen them. But at the same time, this does not mean that a person does not benefit from other stories. And indeed, through our life experiences, we may witness things, and we may see things, and we may see occurrences. And those occurrences will have an impact on us. And there are lessons to be learned there. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He gave Luqman al-Hikmah, part of that hikmah, as Luqman was asked, where did you learn wisdom? He said, I learnt it by observing the foolish people. And whenever they did something wrong, I would avoid that. And this is the importance of a person's opening their eyes and making observations in the world around them, so that inshallah they will benefit. And no doubt, people will give words and people will make comments. And those comments can have a positive impact on a person for many years. A few years ago I met someone who I spent time in Sheffield when I was living there, and he said to me, Jazakallah khair, I want to thank you for the advice that you gave me with regards to finding a wife. And I looked a bit puzzled because I couldn't remember what exactly he was talking about. He said, you know, a few years before that I asked you about marriage and things, and you gave me some very important advice, and Jazakallah khair really helped me and so on. And I just said, Alhamdulillah, you're welcome. But I couldn't remember that advice that I given him. I didn't know what he was advised. But the point being is, and this is not just, that's just one episode, it's happened a few times. The point is that you give good words, or you make a positive comment, you might forget that comment. It might go by past, but that person who has affected him, no doubt that comment will remain with him. Until today, I remember as a child when I was 6 years old, I still remember a positive comment that the barber gave to me when I went to have my hair cut. My father dropped me off and he left me there, and when he picked me up, the barber said, this is being such a good boy, such a great boy. And even till now, that comment, which was a positive comment, doesn't mean much in the light of things, but it's a comment which stays. And I think this is important for us, because in our lives we interact with many people. And it's how you act. And inshallah, the stories that I have for you today, some stories, I think they are very important to teach us lessons in how we interact with ourselves, our outlook and attitude to life, and how we deal with things generally. Firstly, for our journey, we're all on a journey to Al-Akhirah. And in this journey, it's very important for us that we make this journey as best as possible, as beneficial as possible, as efficient as possible, and as enjoyable as possible. Because if your life is enjoyable, and if your life is pleasant, and your life is enriched, then not only will you be getting to the Akhirah in a better way, but also your achievements will be better. And that's why they say that once a man was busy cutting at the saw on a log, very busy cutting, and another man passed by him and looked at him, observed. He said, "Your saw is blunt. Why don't you stop and sharpen your saw?" But the guy kept on sawing. He said, "I don't have time. I have to keep sawing." And sometimes our lives are like this, where we don't take time out to prepare for the bigger picture. Now this guy thinking he's sawing at the log, he doesn't have time to stop. But if he were to stop and spend a few moments just to sharpen the saw, he would achieve his goal much quickly. And especially today, I suppose with the context of Islam, many of us want to learn and want to educate ourselves in Islam more. And subhanAllah, if we had taken some time out, just like 1 year for example, to learn, for those who don't know Arabic, to learn Arabic language, just for a year. Or for those who do learn Arabic, to learn some essential fiqh and essential Islamic knowledge. That year, which is not a lot compared to your life that you would live, would actually benefit you so much in the coming years that to come. But then generally we always think, we have to finish our school and university and get married and have children, and then all of a sudden you don't have time. And you are missing all these opportunities where you could be unlocking the understanding that comes from the Quran. All those long taraweeh that you pray behind the Imam and you don't understand what the Imam is saying because you don't know the language. Or the ahadith that are out there. So if you had spent a little bit of time, you would have been able to benefit from the rest of your life in that regards. And alhamdulillah, I've seen people who have done that, and they've so enriched their lives by understanding Islam more. And that's why Omer ibn Khattab, he said, تَفَقَّهُ قَبْلَ أَن تَسُودُوا. Trying to get the fiqh and understanding and the deen before you become people of responsibility. When you become responsible for a family and children, you don't have time. It all disappears very quickly. They say that one day a man, he would, every day, during lunchtime, he would open his lunch with his friends, and he would open that lunch box and he would say, "No cheese sandwiches again. I hate them." And day in, day out, he would open the lunch box and he's always getting cheese sandwiches. So one day one of his friends said to him, "Why don't you ask your wife to stop making you cheese sandwiches and make something different?" So the man said, "No, I'm not married." And in that, my dear respected brothers, is also sometimes the attitude of some people, is that they are always complaining about certain things. This guy wasn't happy with the cheese sandwiches, but he's the one who's making the sandwiches. And if he was, and if you have a problem in your life, You have something that's not good in your life. You are the one who controls the keys and the ability to change things. It might need a little bit of preparation. It might need a little bit of thought, but you are responsible. And that's why you have the responsibility of how things are in your life. And making the positive changes so that you are not always feeling that you are complaining. A man was observing from a distance a woman who was walking on the beach. And as she was walking on the beach, she was regularly bending down, picking something up from the beach and throwing it into the sea. And when the man came closer and saw what she was doing, he saw that she was picking up starfish, stranded starfish that the sea had pushed out. So she was helping those starfish back into the sea, because otherwise the sun will dry them out and they will die. So the man said to that woman, it's not going to make a difference. I mean, there's thousands of starfish out there. What difference is it going to make what you're doing? So as she picked up another one and threw it back, she said it's made a difference to that one. And I think that's also important for us to outline how our lives impact others. Yes, we can't change the world. And we can't help everybody there. There's lots of people out there who are in lots of grief, lots of grievance, lots of problems, and we can't help everybody. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't help others, or the people that we can help. And that's why a small bit of charity goes a long way. Even though it might help a little number of people, or a small number of people, or maybe even one person, but it will be beneficial because it will change that individual in their life. So we have to look how we benefit others as well. Once a lecturer, he raised a glass of water in his hand and he extended his arm to demonstrate this, and he said to the people, his students, how heavy is this water or this glass of water? So people started to make estimates of what weight this might be. But he said to them, and this is the lesson, he said it doesn't matter how heavy it is. What matters is how long do I hold it for. The longer that I hold it for, the more pain I will get from it. If I hold it for a minute, maybe not much difficulty. If I hold it for an hour, then definitely something's going to happen. I'm going to be in a lot of pain, I'm going to be ache. And in our lives, we have lots of issues. And we have lots of problems. And we have lots of emotions that sometimes are disturbed. The longer you hold on to these, the longer that you hold on to your anger, the longer that you hold on to your difficulties with others, the grudges, the more it's a problem for you. Not long ago, somebody had a small confrontation with me. I was just joking with him, and he sort of thought that I was actually mocking him. He said, "Oh, I'm mocking me," and he wanted to change it into a whole... I was just joking with him. I said, "Look, I'm not mocking you, I'm just joking with you." But he changed the whole scenario. And his summary was, anyway, he said, "Okay, I'm gonna account you on the Day of Judgment for what you have said, and Allah will be the judge of this." I said to him, "It's not worth it. Why do you want to hold on for this problem until the Day of Judgment? It's nothing, it's not worth it. I'm not mocking you, I just told and explained to you, you don't know my intention, and for you to hold on to the Day of Judgment, see the kind of pain that you will carry for the Day of Judgment. When it's nothing, it's silly, it's trivial, just put it away." And that's why when you see the Islamic teachings that a Muslim should not break contact with his brother, or should not leave his brother for more than 3 days. 3 days is what the Prophet said. After 3 days, if you're not cooled down, there's something wrong with you. You've got a problem. 3 days you should have cooled down, and you should have get back and make up with your brother. And if you have a problem, then you are missing out on a great reward, because every Monday and every Thursday, the gates of Jannah are open, and Allah forgives everyone who believes in Him, except someone who holds grudge. So similarly, as we should learn not to hold these things in our hands for a long time, they will harm us. And that's why Nelson Mandela, they say, when he was released, the US president at the time called him and he said, surely after such an experience of incarceration, you must feel some anger towards those who have kept you all this time in captivity. So Mandela, he said, no. I realized that if I did let go of my anger, then those who have imprisoned me will still be in control of part of my life. And the Prophet ﷺ already practiced that. We see in his sunnah when he came to open Mecca, and his attitudes to the Meccans, it wasn't an impact attitude. We know the Prophet entered Mecca, the whole of Quraysh were afraid, what was he going to do to them? These were people who had fought him for so long, these were people who had thrown him out of Mecca, they had exiled him, they had tortured the Muslims, they had killed, etc. So the Prophet ﷺ's answer was, you are free to go. There's nothing, I'm not doing anything to you. That wasn't an impulse decision that the Prophet made just on the spot. He said, okay, I'll forgive you. He's already forgiven them. Because his cause was not that related to anger. His cause was that he was doing a mission. And I think that's important for us as well. Also, they say that after the 9/11 attack, a non-Muslim, he was saying to his son, he said, I feel like I have two wolves fighting inside me. One is angry and full of vengeance, and the other one is still determined to be gentle and loving. So he said to his son, which one do you think will win? So his son said to him, whichever one you choose to feed. They are both wolves. If you feed one of them more, then that wolf will grow, and that is the one that will win. So again, it's a choice how we deal with things in our lives. Because yes, we do have our anger is really an important thing that controls our attitude with others. And when we learn to control our anger, and we will learn to give positive messages to our feelings that are good, gentle, loving, mercy attitude, then that is what will overwhelm us. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ was a rahmah. His description was a rahmah lil alameen, because that was his overwhelming practice. That was his overwhelming attitude. And indeed, those people who have succeeded through their lives, it was through their positive attitudes that made them in the way that they were. And that brings me on to a very important point, which is about controlling your anger. A teacher once told his pupils, or one of them, to throw a pebble in the pond. So they threw a pebble, and as you know, when you throw something in the pond, there's a ripple that starts, an effect that starts. So he said to them, now try to stop the ripple. So as the child or the boy put his hand to stop the ripple, what happens? More ripples occur. So that when you start an action off, it's very difficult to stop it because the effects are ongoing. And the only way to avoid those ripples is by not throwing the pebble in the first place. And that's why it's very important for us, when we make any decision, when you say anything, the moment that you say a word, that word controls you. Before you speak, you control the word. You're in charge of it. It has no effect over you. The moment you speak it, it controls you. And how many times have we said things which we have regretted? Because we didn't think about what we're saying. So don't throw the pebble. Think before you do that. And that's why a father, when he tried to teach his boy an important lesson, a boy was quite angry, he was always abusive, he was not behaving well. So his father wanted to teach him how to reduce that anger. So he said to him, he made him every time he got angry or said something bad, to go and hammer a nail into the fence, wooden fence. So initially the boy was hammering lots of nails in the fence, but gradually as he learned, he managed to reduce the hammering of the nails into, and then eventually days would pass by without him hammering any nails into the fence. Now the father said, every time a day goes by without you getting angry, without you being abusive, I want you to take a nail out from the nails that you had hammered in. So indeed, with the days, the son was practicing that, and eventually he took all the nails out of the fence. But then the father said, go and look at the fence. And when he looked at the fence, what could he see? There's all holes in the fence. And he said, even though you are angry and you've removed your anger, you still have holes in the fence. You've disturbed the fence. And so your effect, your anger, your emotions, what you say to others will always have effects on people. Even if you apologize to others, you've done the damage. And that's why you have to be careful what you say. And that's why you have to be careful how you deal with others. Because what you say will impact on others and may damage other people. So it's always very, very important to control what you say. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, فَلْيَقُلْ خَيْرًا أَوْ لِيَصْمُتْ. Say something good. If you believe in Allah on the final day, speak something good or be quiet. Because you might regret what you have to say. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Please make room for your brothers by squeezing in and closing all the gaps. جزاكم الله خيرا. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وموالاه. عباد الله اتقوا الله كما أمر فإنه قال يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. O you who believe, fear Allah and let every person prepare for or look unto what he has prepared for the tomorrow, and fear Allah because Allah is all informant of what you do. No doubt, as I mentioned to you, my dear respected brothers, in the beginning, that it's very important for us to have a positive outlook into life. And that positivity will make the difference of how you experience things. I read that two friends went on a safari holiday, and they are both sitting there watching the African sunset. One is lost in the experience, observing, seeing the sun, listening to the birds, watching the nice scenario, the different colors, the gentle breeze. The other one has been thinking about the day. The transport was late, the lunch wasn't really that good, what are they going to be doing? And so one of them was engaged in the bad things that happened to him, whereas one was enjoying the experience. Now it's without doubt the one who is enjoying the experience, that's the one that's going to be more happy. And that's the one who has been the positive outlook. And sometimes you see that happening for those of you who have been on Hajj. You see that Hajj is not an easy journey. There are difficulties, there are hardships, the number of people that are there, how the authorities deal with you, and the crowd, and lots of things. Now if you are the attitude of someone who's just going to be complaining, then you will not only not enjoy your Hajj, but you will be someone who may not even get his Hajj accepted. Whereas if you are someone who actually enjoys the spirituality and the comfort of being as a guest of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the sacred mosque, that is the one who benefits. And that can be for anything in our life. Those people who are always looking negative, and those are the people who are always moaning, are the people who don't enjoy their experience. And it's narrated by Imam Malik that he narrates that Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, peace be upon him, was walking with his disciples once, and the pig wanted to pass by. So Isa alayhi salam stopped, and he allowed the pig to pass by, and he said, "Umfud bi salam, go in peace," to the pig. The
disciples, they were surprised. They said, this is a pig. And as you know, the pig in the Jewish culture and as in the Muslim culture is an animal which is despised, not eaten, rejected, and so on. So how are you speaking to the pig and such? He said, because I don't want to make my tongue used to abusive or unacceptable words. Rather, I want to make my tongue get used to good things. And I think this is an important message for us, because the way that you live your life today and the attitude, the way that you interact with others, all goes down, it spins down to your attitude in life, how you see things, how you look at things. And I attempted through some of the stories that we've read today and heard today, is that people who have a positive attitude to life, they will experience much better things. And people who always look at negative things will always see things in a bad way. And that's why it's very important for us to look at things positively and treat things in the best way and control what we say and not to get angry. And these are just small bits of advice from the Prophet ﷺ. His whole advice, his whole moral guidance is books and books could be written on these things, because really there are keys to making your life a better way to live. Like these whole stories that we've mentioned here, the Prophet ﷺ summarized it in 2 words for one of the incidents. We mentioned the stories about the person who getting angry and so on. The Prophet just reminded the Sahabi who wanted the advice, he said, "La taghdab." Give me advice, the Sahabi, give me advice, I want La taghdab, don't get angry. فَرَدَّدَ مِرَارًا, he just kept on asking for it, and the Prophet just said, "La taghdab." 2 words which gave the essence of that advice. And in another Sahabi came and said, "O Messenger of Allah," he came to the Prophet and the Prophet could see him coming from far away. He wanted to ask such an important question. And when he came, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Shall I tell you what you come to ask?" He said, "Yes, what I'd like." He said, "You have come to ask about righteousness. What is righteousness?" So the Prophet ﷺ said in 3 words, summary, "Al-birru husnul khuluq." Righteousness is good khuluq, is good morals, good etiquettes. You see the summary? And this is what we learn, my dear respected brothers. So observing people, observing the lives of people and reading stories can have a positive impact on us, inshaAllah ta'ala, because the way that we deal in our lives not only will it impact others, but most importantly it will impact us. And I think that's why we have to change our attitudes, and also we look at the companies that we engage in. Some of the scholars in the past, they used to have stories, and indeed one of them wrote a book called Al-Thuqala, those who are heavy, the heavy people. And heavy doesn't mean heavy weight, but it means rather those who are heavy in their morals and character. People who just put you off, people who always bring you down. They don't allow you to have good, positive interactions. And they used to say, never make your company of people like that, because they will always weigh you down. You want to be surrounded by people who are positive, people who have good manners, people who when you see them, they remind you of Allah. And when you remember Allah, they help you. And when you forget to remember Allah, they remind you. These are the kind of people that you want to be engaging with, because they are the people who make your life much better and makes the journey more pleasant. And as the Chinese say, they say, a good companion doesn't make a long journey short, but makes the journey more pleasant. So the journey is there, we have to get going. And if you have good companions around you, then inshallah you'll get to the akhirah with the best ways and the best achievements, inshallah ta'ala. And no doubt in the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is so much for us to grow and to change our morals for the better, inshallah. Allahumma salli al-Islam wal-Muslimin, Allahumma a'izz al-Muslimin wal-Islam, Allahumma a'ali kalimat al-Iman, Allahumma rabbana inna nas'aluka ridaka wal-Jannah, wa na'udhu bika min sakhatika wal-nar.
اللهم ربنا اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وارحمهم كما ربونا صغارا. اللهم اغفر لنا وللمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات. اللهم ارحم بإخواننا وأخواتنا في جميع أنحاء العالمين. اللهم إن لك عبادا في الأرض جياعا فقراء وأغنهم بفضلك يا الله. اللهم من كان جائعا فأطعمه، ومن كان عاريا فاكسه، ومن كان عطشانا فاسقه، ومن كان غائبا فرده إلى أهله سالما غانما. اللهم من كان مريضا فعافه وشافه، ومن مات من أمة محمد فارحمه برحمتك وعلى والدينا، وأن نعمل صالحا ترضاه، وأدخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. عباد الله، إن هذا اليوم يوم الجمعة هو من أفضل أيامكم، فأكثروا من الصلاة على النبي في مثل هذا اليوم فإنها معروضة عليه. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. وارض اللهم عن أبي بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي وعن بقية العشرة وأصحاب الشجرة وسائر الصحابة والتابعين وتابعين بإحسان إلى يوم الدين.